A Sky News investigation has found evidence that suggests a Russian warplane systematically bombed civilian targets in Syria. In one of the worst incidents of civil war, 44 people were killed in Marat al-Numan on July 22nd. Sky News has visited the area, reconstructing the events, and spoken to people who said Russian planes carried out the attacks.
This is the attack the Russians say never happened. It was in Marat al-Numan in Idlib province on July 22nd. We reported then on what seemed like a miracle. A 7-year-old girl called Batul was pulled out of the rubble after 6 hours. Then rescuers found her little brother Ahmed. The 3-year-old was covered in blood and dust, but he too was dragged out alive. Their parents and their siblings didn't survive. We've been talking for the past 4 months to the man who helped free them and been back to the scene of the bombings with him, tracking down eyewitnesses and survivors too, and pieced together what happened that day. Their testimony totally contradicts the Russian denials that their warplanes bombed this residential area.
At the beginning it was very difficult. At night we all have nightmares. I sometimes see myself trapped in the rubble, or I dream about aircraft targeting us.
The first bomb landed at just after 8:30 in the morning, in the middle of a market area. About 8 minutes later, the second landed in the same spot, a double tap aimed at killing those rescuing the injured from the initial attack. It's also an area populated by schools. Across the city, a little over a kilometre away, and barely 11 minutes later, a third lands, near a mosque and a hospital. And at 9 o'clock, the fourth is dropped, adjacent to a cultural centre. The crater is where the children's home once was. They lived on the second floor of a 3-storey apartment block above a market stall. More than 40 people died in the bombings, including 8 children. The whole area is known as the school district, and one of the first people on the scene was a teacher.
We are getting shelled every day! We are getting killed every day! Mr. Trump, please! Please stop this!
At the time, the Russians denied they'd launched any warplanes in the area at all that day.
I want to emphasise that Russian aviation was not used in this area on July 22nd and did not fly there.
We gave our fresh investigation findings to the Russians, but we haven't had a response. Those denials are tough to come to terms with if you're one of the 70 people who were injured that day. We've monitored Batul and Ahmed's progress. Batul was more seriously hurt of the two, with severe internal injuries. But Syrian refugees in Turkey managed to get the children out of the war zone to get medical help in Turkey. Ahmed has had surgery on his eye. Batul needs more operations, but the siblings are both recovering well and being looked after by elderly relatives who fled to Turkey. The bombing of civilian targets like Batul and Ahmed's home is a systematic way of pushing the population out of an area and appears to be a tactic which is being carried out with impunity.